Well, good morning, Kim McAllister in for Nikki Medoro. Thank you for your patience in waiting for my tech issues to be resolved. Here's the thing that happened to me this morning. Same computer I use every day, same program I use every day. This time I opened the program and it showed up as a little teeny tiny mini window at the bottom. And try as I might, even calling my tech support that lives in the house here, we couldn't make it big. So I ended up rebooting several times, and now I'm trying on a different um, browser. So I'm using Chrome, which I don't usually do. And the last time I did it, things were really glitchy. So I'm hoping everything is okay because I have a really, really good show planned for today. And I'm excited about all of the guests that we will be seeing here on the Nikki Medoro show. And they include Ruth Carlson. Ruth Carlson is an author. She is a knower of all things San Francisco. And so when I was reading last night about the Castro Theater being shut down for a year for renovation, I thought, I wonder if she knows what that's all about. So we'll talk to her about that and also her book and more. Clark Reid is going to be in today to talk about tech. He's got a lot to discuss with us, and it's been a while, so it'll be good to see him again. Also, Mark Toney, who is the director of Turn, which is the utility reform network, will be in because last month how the California Public Utilities Commission approved a PG&E rate hike, and like a chunky one, more than 13%. They're back at it. They have their hand out again. They want another rate hike from us. I mean, what's the saying? You squeeze blood from a turnip or a lemon or something. I don't know how much more we can give. I really don't. And so we'll talk to him about, it's just another rubber stamp that we just have to take laying down. And is there anything that can be done that we can do to fight another rate hike increase? So we'll talk to Mr. Toney about that. That is in the second hour. But first, I don't know if you saw this story pop up this morning. The Supreme Court has decided that they will rule on mifepristone. That's the abortion pill. It's not the pill that is called the morning after pill. That's different. This is a pill that is used to end a pregnancy, often early and in a chemical way. Um, it's I know it's prescribed to women who have a tubal pregnancy. So that's the one that shows up in the fallopian tube that will kill a woman, right? A fetus can't grow in there because, well, it can grow in there until it explodes the fallopian tube, and then there's internal bleeding, and then the woman dies. It has to be dealt with right away. And often mifepristone is used to treat tubal pregnancies. And they're more common than you might think as well. The Supreme Court agreeing today to take up this dispute over mifepristone. It is the first abortion case since the High Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year. The justices are set to hear appeals from the Biden administration, the maker of the drug, mifepristone. They're going to ask the High Court to reverse an appellate ruling that would cut off access to this drug through the mail and also impose other restrictions, even in states where abortion remains legal. So the restrictions include shortening the current 10 weeks to 7 weeks, the time during which mifepristone can be used in pregnancy. So this is used early on, right? Um, they did not, the justices on the Supreme Court, take a separate appeal from abortion opponents who had challenged the FDA's initial approval of mifepristone. This case set to be argued in the spring. And so yet another moment where government is getting involved in what happens with a woman's decision about her body. Funny, I was talking to my 14-year-old daughter last night at the kitchen table, and her opinions are still forming. She's still learning information. She's still trying to figure out, who she is and what she thinks about things. And my husband and my daughter and myself are there at the kitchen table, and we're talking about whether was my started with just my husband and I talking about it because he feels like people, if a blanket uh you know freedom is given, that the government is not involved in the abortion issue at all. It's a woman's decision, whatever time, from the beginning to the end. That's it. There's no restriction. That's my opinion, right? I mean, I feel like His argument is, some women will use it as a form of birth control. It's not what we want. No, it isn't. It's not what I want for myself. It's not what I will teach my daughter is appropriate, but that's us. If there's some woman who's had 30 abortions and that's her birth control, that's her body. That's not, I mean, I'm a keep my eyes on my own paper kind of girl. Is it a great scenario? No. Do we want to educate people? Yes. I don't think there should be any restrictions at all. At all. Government should just stay out of this whole debate. So, to have them stick their foot in this debate for me, I don't like it at all. But that is what they will do. Speaking of which, I was going to, yeah, Heather says nobody goes out getting abortions willy-nilly. So I have heard of women, mostly women who I think are addicted to substances, drugs, who don't use birth control and who do, there are women who will use it as a form of birth control. Heather, I mean, you and I might not do that, but I think there are women who maybe do, who have had multiple, 13, 14 type of abortions. I think they're few and far between. I don't know. Um, uh-oh. Well, I hope this works. Sandy, is the show on yet, you guys? I keep refreshing the page, but I don't hear anything. Well, I hope it is. Gordon says, right on, Kim. Somebody's hearing me, so I don't know. Anyway, it was an interesting conversation at the table last night. And then I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see a really powerful post put out by a friend. And so I want to read it to you, but I won't use her name because I didn't get her approval first. So, written by Anonymous. Okay. And she's talking about Katie Cox, this woman in Texas who the government is involved in her body and what she's doing with her body. And finally, she left the state and said, you know what? I have to go. I have to go deal with this. Her infant, or not infant, her fetus was diagnosed with trisomy 18, which means if it doesn't die inside of her womb, it will die likely a painful death right when it comes out. And so, because her doctors have told her that carrying this pregnancy to term could affect her fertility down the road, and because she's decided that she wants to have another child, she wants to have this abortion. And the court said yes. And then it was appealed to a higher court and they said no. Here she is, Katie Cox. She's put her picture out there. She's out in the world. And right now she's somewhere else other than Texas, dealing with her horrible misfortune in having a pregnancy that was wanted and in a tragic situation. And as if that's not bad enough, as if she doesn't have to go through this devastation, here she is having to deal with all the public scrutiny, with the state telling her what she can and can't do. It's pretty gross, honestly. So I know I have Ruth Carlson, who is so gracious to come in this morning, waiting in the wings, but I really wanted to read this post to you from a friend. I can't stop thinking about this brave, heroic woman, she writes. Like her, I was a married mother with means and support when I had my abortion. Unlike her, my health and fertility were not in danger. I had my reason, and it was mine and private and complicated, and the only reason any woman needs to have an abortion, she doesn't want to be pregnant. My friend writes, I was discussing this with someone before Mrs. Cox left Texas to have her abortion who said, why didn't she just leave the state? And there is no just about leaving the state to have an abortion or any medical procedure. It's expensive, it's inconvenient, it's dangerous, it's terrifying. There is no just about telling or asking anyone to do anything you haven't done. And she writes, my spidey senses tell me that Kate Cox is the Rosa Parks of the Texas reproductive rights movement, a quote, perfect victim of an unjust law who, with the support of an organized effort sacrificed her own health and privacy and safety so that her sisters would never have to suffer like she did. Thinking about her off somewhere having a painful, dangerous late term abortion of a baby she very much wanted because of a panel of men that decided she wasn't close enough to death for a safe legal abortion in her own community is sickening. And it makes me want to fill her recovery room with flowers. She writes, I can't do that, but I can send her a postcard in care of the group that is representing her, and I encourage you to do it as well. So please send a postcard, not sealed in an envelope, because those will be disposed of for the safety of the staff, to the Center for Reproductive Rights at 199 Water Street, New York, New York, 10038. If you want to send a postcard, I'll say it again. It's the Center for Reproductive Rights, 199 Water Street, New York, New York, 10038. So here she is, this unwitting now face of the reproductive rights scandal in Texas. And I'm thinking about her too and what she's going through because the procedure and the heartbreak that she's dealing with right now are bad enough. And now we have the government's fingers in her uterus and everyone else's. So it just follows with the Supreme Court ruling on mifepristone as well. If I want to take that, I'm going to take that. Let me take that. It's no one else's business. So I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you for hearing me out. Okay, so let's lighten things up a little bit. I'm gonna heavy it up with abortion right out of the chute. Here I go. But I did want to talk about what's happening in San Francisco. And I was reading last night that the Castro Theater is going to shut down this 100-year-old theater. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's really pretty special. They've got the old pipe organ and the call it gingerbread all over the walls. It's so beautiful. It's going to be closed down for more than a year. They were bought by Another Planet Entertainment, and they're going to renovate inside. There's been a lot of controversy about this. When I think about San Francisco and the love of that city, I think about Ruth Carlson. And so let me bring her on right now and say good morning to Ruth. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. Let me just mention on the previous topic, I knew a close friend who went through a similar issue where they said the child was going to die. And so luckily she had a doctor. He was actually a Mormon with 7 kids. And he said, I would tell my daughter to get this procedure, to take care of it because the child will be born dead. So I'm so sorry she did not have that support, but it's thankfully in California that it's not that way.
I agree with you, but then these are our American sisters that are struggling in a state that's not so far from us.
Right.
And my heart is broken and I'm angry and I just feel I'm devastated for her because, as I mentioned, going through that is hard enough, Ruth. Here's a woman who wanted this pregnancy, who wanted this third baby.
Like my friend.
Yeah. And who ends up becoming the unwitting face of this reproductive rights struggle. No one wants that. That's a private matter. No one needs to know. She's going through this worst moment. It's devastating, and here we are. So
talk about more fun stuff.
Yes, let's talk about, first of all, you're an author. You've written these books, which you sent me, and I'm so happy. The Secret California, A Guide to the Weird, the Wonderful, and the Obscure. And then you also wrote The Secret San Francisco, The Guide to the Weird, the Wonderful, and the Obscure. And there's some really cool things in your books, things I would never have thought to go see. You have been all around the city. You have been peeking in nooks and crannies. I would say for someone who wants to come to San Francisco or someone in the Bay Area who loves day trips to San Francisco, your books, or even around California with your other book, these are perfect holiday gifts. Put in a stocking, and someone will be sitting on the couch all Christmas morning, peeking through and going, oh, I didn't know that was there. Ooh, that would be a cool place to go see. Right. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's go back to what's happening at the Castro Theater. All right, because there's a lot of people who just want it to stay like it is. They don't want to have to have history tampered with in any way. But the theater is sold. The new owners are going in. They're going to make some changes, and it's a $20 million remodel that has now closed the Castro Theater down for a year. So when I thought about what's happening in the nooks and crannies of San Francisco, immediately I thought of you. And I wonder if you can shed any light on what's going on there.
Well, I mean, it's such an iconic part of San Francisco, and
Mhm.
the city loves it. And there's a lot of people that feel very strongly that these seats should not be removed. But the new owner said we can't make a living if we don't remove the seats and have more concerts. And they're saying that it's going to be much more interesting. They're going to have live concerts as well as movies. Um, and they're also going to restore some murals on the walls and on the ceiling.
Mhm.
And it is an old building that needs to be restored. So it just depends on who you talk to. I think in the end, it's probably going to be a magnificent space, but people were very upset about the seats being moved. And I'm wondering, I'm sitting in these theater seats I got at Marines Memorial. I'm like, I wonder if they're going to sell those seats because
Because you want a piece of history.
theater seats, yeah, piece of history. But hopefully, I guess the LGBTQ community was upset because they had those seats to show a lot of movies,
Yeah.
and they said there's not going to be the space for that now. But they said they're still going to do that. It just will, they won't have those seats, but they'll still have the other seats. So we'll see what happens.
So I guess is it the end of movies at the Castro Theater? Because I love to go there and do that. They have the Sound of Music sing-alongs. They have some really fun events there that are big in the community as well.
Well, the new owners say no, it's not the end of that. It's just that they're going to add on live concerts, but they're still going to have the movies. They're still going to have the traditional things. So I hope so, because it is a really great experience to go there when the organ rises up out of the ground. And
Really cool. Yeah.
amazing.
You feel like you're in a different era
Yes,
altogether. But
yes,
they say, I guess they're going to approve disability access as well, that maybe that had been a problem in the past. Um, in the audience, on stage, backstage, they're going to put new heating and air conditioning in,
yes.
expand the lobby, increase the theater's concession offerings to, this isn't a bad thing, add wine,
Yeah,
spirits, and food from local eateries.
that's not
Hello, Castro Theater, right? They're going to restore the original proscenium arch and the removal of the theater's 800 fixed orchestra level seats, which have been the subject of intense public debate and are slated to be replaced by flexible seating that can be moved in and out of a theater. So that's where you come in and say, okay, it's a standing room only concert, it's a
yeah.
big dance party, we're going to pull these seats out, type of thing. And that really does change the flavor of what it's about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think uh, it was in danger of closing because they just weren't making enough money. So
Yeah.
I think they're rescuing it, hopefully, and hopefully it'll still remain with the old flavor and then also have the new. Uh,
Yeah.
but I know they were in financial trouble before they were bought.
Well, let's move on
Mm.
to the secrets of San Francisco. I have a copy of your book cover, and I was hoping you could just open the book to any random page, and tell me there's the book, Secret San Francisco, a guide to the weirdest, wonderful, the weird, the wonderful, and the obscure. This is Ruth Carlson's San Francisco offering. What page did you find yourself on?
Emperor with no clothes.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, Emperor Norton was a San Francisco icon back. He lost all his money during the gold rush, and he kind of went crazy. And
Mhm.
he left for a while, and he came back, and he said, "I'm the emperor." And everybody indulged him. In fact, they gave him uniforms. The military gave him uniforms, and he made up his own money, and he would hand that out to people. It was worthless, of course, but they would take it, and they would let him go free to the opera, free to the best restaurants because he was such a character.
Yeah.
And but he was brilliant. He was crazy, but brilliant. He said, "We need to have a bridge to Oakland. We need to have the Bay Bridge." He thought of things like
Mhm.
that. And he was all for women's rights. And so now Joseph Amster is wonderful. And he leads tours all the time and dresses up just like the emperor all over the city. And it's well worth it. If you get a chance, I would highly recommend going on a tour with him. He knows the city by heart.
Really fun. Okay, one more page.
Okay, gosh, let's see.
Random page.
The columbarium.
The columbarium. It sounds rather cemetery-ish.
That was a place I knew nothing about, but
Mm.
it's fascinating. In fact, Lori Armstrong, who used to be head of SF Tourism, told me about it. It's in San Francisco, they needed more real estate space. And so they moved most of the graves to Colma.
Right.
Back in the, oh gosh, I think it was the gold rush. Yeah, 1900s, early 1900s.
They were supposed to move most of the graves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For people that didn't pay to have their graves removed, you can see the headstones. You can see them at Buena Vista, not Buena Vista. You can see them out at
Ocean Beach.
Yes, you can see them at the beach. You can see them at Fort Mason, at the Oregon Wave. So not all of them were moved, but then they decided, but we can still have ashes. And so the columbarium, everybody has these little cubicles, and people have gotten really creative with them. You know, the Anchor Steam guys are there, and they've got beer in there, the original owners of it, and they've got like hula dancers in there, and a lot of famous people. Harvey Milk is there. A lot of famous people from San Francisco have their little cubicles, and it's fascinating just to go in and look and see what people put in there. It's quite fun.
I mean, that's something I would never have thought to go do. And it's probably a really interesting couple of hours wandering through.
Oh, it's great. And actually the landscaper there, he also will give you a free tour, and he's amazing. I mean, he knows everything and he knows everybody, and he's terrific. So if you go, ask for a tour and they'll give you a free tour.
Ask for a tour of ashes. Yes. Okay, let's check your other book out, because you've branched out. You went from San Francisco to California, and the guide to the weird, the wonderful, and the obscure. So I'll ask you to do the same thing. If you could just open the book at random.
Oh, yeah, there was a thing called COVID, so I couldn't go international travel writing, which is what I normally do. Okay, well, this is a crazy place, Felicity, California. It's this guy's very eccentric, Jacques-André Istal, and he decided to create a town in the middle of nowhere in the desert. It's on the edge of the Arizona-California border. And he brought in things like a stairway from the Eiffel Tower and things from the Louvre, and he called it the center of the world. And he got France to agree it's the center of the world. He's French originally. And also Imperial County to agree it's the center of the world. And he has the history of the world in granite, but it's his history of the world. So it's not always accurate. It's what he wants it to be.
Sure.
And he has a pyramid. I mean, it's hysterical. He has a post office. He is the lifelong mayor. He was elected by himself and his wife, the only two residents there. And it's
there's the pyramid,
a replica of a chapel in Brittany. I mean, it's a really wild, cool place. I mean, I would recommend it.
That's awesome. Where is Felicity?
It's near oh God, what is that town in let's see, it's Yuma. It's I flew to Yuma and then took an Uber.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pictures are amazing. And
I was like, I'm gonna fly and then take an Uber. And yeah. So
I mean, it's more than just a roadside attraction, this place.
No, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is. It's you just wander around and they give you tours. If you get a tour, you can say you're at the center of the world. It's the center of the world, declared by France and Imperial County.
Of course it is.
And all right. Andre said anywhere could be the center of the world, but I got them to agree to it. So
can you open one more page? Let's do one more.
Oh, yes. This is one of my favorites. In Fresno.
Okay.
There is an underground resort. It's called Forest Air, named after the guy who made it. And in the early 1900s, he was from Sicily and he was in Fresno, and he's like, it's too hot. And he was used to like wine caves. And so he was just a laborer, but every day he would just like dig and build himself a house. And then he decided to make it a whole resort. And it's got an aquarium. It's got everything's open. It's got a bathtub outside. It's got it's the kind of place that young people would like die to go to for Instagram if they could stay there. But instead, it's a museum. You can only just tour it. But it's actually really cool. I mean, the architecture is beautiful. He really had a vision, and he built a ballroom. He built a place where the cars could pull in, and you can walk around the top and then reach down and pick an orange from the orange trees that come out of the
Right.
roof, and it's a pretty fun story. He surprisingly never got married. I don't know. He was engaged, but I think she decided she didn't want to live underground.
He was too busy building his underground resort.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't have
that's
time for
true.
love.
That's true. He did that constantly.
Yeah.
But they thought he was crazy now. But I've been to Spain and Australia, and a lot of places now have these underground homes that they're environmentally friendly because you don't need
Right.
air conditioning. It's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was ahead of his
Yeah.
time.
Do people email you with the random places to go see? Like, guess what I found, Ruth? You're gonna love this.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and some of them like, wow, I didn't know about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Weed sisters in Merced. I mean, they're a great story.
What
It,
tell me about them.
it's they're nuns of their own. They don't belong to any religion, official religion, but they wear the full nun costume like people used to wear. When I was growing up at Catholic school, and they make CBD on this farm in Merced, and they said their duty is to heal people and to spread spirituality through CBD, and so they they sell it online and they walk around the streets of Merced, and they said people come up to them because they have habits on and they confess things to them and they try to help them, but it's yeah.
They're like, "We're not real nuns," or maybe they feel they are real nuns. I don't know.
They feel a calling. They said they feel a spiritual calling to help people. So
Are they the Sisters of the Valley?
yes, yes.
Okay,
Their nickname is the Weed Sisters. Yeah, Sisters of the Valley. Yeah.
I have to show you the picture because they do walk around and they look like, I mean, this is let me share the screen with you guys. This is what they're looking like. They're not messing around. You can get 10% off your CBD, what we know are there. But there's the picture of
Yeah,
them.
that's them. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, they really do walk around looking like nuns of the valley.
exactly.
They're pot nuns. Yeah. There
Yep,
you go.
yep.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Your books are amazing. I'm gonna flash up the covers because I want people to be able to know what it looks like and go online and order it, especially right now. I think it's the mad dash for stocking stuffers and last minute gifts. And so, Secret San Francisco: A Guide to the Weird, Wonderful, and the Obscure by Ruth Carlson. Totally worth it. I have it in my car, and while I'm waiting for kids to do various activities, I will just pick it up and at random open a page and I'm reading about some weird San Francisco place. Now I have a list that I want to go see. And statewide, take it to all of California: A Guide to the Weird, Wonderful, and the Obscure by Ruth Carlson. So I would urge you to check those books out. And if you have somebody you think would be interested in really kitschy, off the beaten path, interesting places around our state and around San Francisco, it's really the perfect gift. Ruth Carlson, thank you for hopping on with me this morning and hanging out.
Oh, thank you. It was a blast. I just have to
Yeah,
say, I think the biggest secret about San Francisco is there's no doom loop. We've got so many new restaurants and jazz
really.
and yeah, North Beach especially, the Italian part of town, it's on fire. And so I don't see a doom loop.
What's interesting is I don't know if you know our friend Jefferson Graham, who appears on this show and the Mark Thompson show, and he's a photographer. He has a YouTube channel called Photo Walks TV.
Oh,
He recently went to San Francisco to see if it's true, if there's a homeless person on every corner, if there's poop smeared on every sidewalk. And he said, no, no, it isn't true at all. That there are a couple places where it is, and that's kind of down by City Hallish, Market Street
yeah.
area, or Van Ness area. And then he also
Yeah,
said
the
in
Tenderloin
the
is
Tenderloin.
yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't go to those places, what you see is the San Francisco that you would have expected to see, before the so-called doom loop discussion popped up. I think it's true in the Union Square area. We've lost a lot of businesses and shops, but hopefully that's coming back. And you say you've got a lot of new restaurants going on.
Oh, yeah. No, it is coming
Mhm.
back. I mean, South End Market is, we've got a new IKEA, but yeah,
Yeah.
we lost some good places. Nordstrom was a shock, but
Yeah.
there are police everywhere. It's very safe. They really want people to come back. And Union Square, the square itself is wonderful. We just had hundreds and hundreds of people for SantaCon, and they went
Yeah.
to restaurants and bars, and I didn't hear about any incidents in shopping. So hopefully the crime has gone down.
I was reading yesterday that there are 3 restaurants in San Francisco that just got Michelin stars.
Oh,
I don't know if you saw that. There's one in, Hayes Valley. Gosh, I have to now look it up because I'm, you know, just talking to talk. But yeah, 3 restaurants with Michelin stars. So pretty nice restaurants to go
yeah.
check out. I think one is called Kiln, which is a Scandinavian place
Oh,
in, I wanna say it's Hayes Valley area.
good. Yeah.
So,
Read the paper every
yeah.
day. I missed that though. Oh well.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff happening in San Francisco, and I love that you have the theater seats in your house.
I love these. Yeah.
They're really cool. All
Yeah.
right, Ruth. Well,
All
have
right.
a great rest of your day. Happy holidays to you, and thank you for writing these books and giving us all some fun.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
That's Ruth Carlson, everybody. Grateful to have her on the show today. Really, those books are cool. I'm not joking. Okay, so coming up in just a few minutes, Clark Reid will be on the show. He has a lot to talk about, from the most popular app store of 2023 to this new phenomenon with online monopoly. We'll talk to him about that. I guess Ford is cutting the production of their electric trucks, which they had a quite a waiting list when these trucks first came out. I know we had signed up for one, and then it kind of turned out that they're not exactly what you would think that they would be. They're now cutting production on the Ford F-150 Lightning truck. So we'll talk to him about that, and much more. TikTok as well. They're the first non-game app to hit $10 billion. So yeah, a lot to discuss with Clark Reid. We will bring him in, as well as Mark Toney, who is the executive director of the Turn, which is the Utility Reform Network. We'll talk about PG&E's, what it seems like to me, and we'll ask him what he thinks. A money grab, gouging. These are words that come to mind when last month PG&E just got a rate hike increase approved by the California Public Utilities Commission, and now they want another one a month later. They're killing me. I've heard people say, I just can't afford to live in California anymore. It's just too expensive. I just can't do it. Right. And one of the things they cite is the cost of electricity. So now it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. And is there an end in sight? I mean, is it going to be to the point where it's going to cost as much as my mortgage to turn on a light switch? California. We have to do something to rein it in, and no one is reining in PG&E. So we'll talk to Mark Toney with the Turn Network. But I had some other things that I wanted to discuss with you before we get to Clark Reid at 10 o'clock. And I don't know if you heard this story. Okay, yucky. This San Francisco tech CEO is accused of making his assistant sign a sexual slave contract and then abusing her for years. This is TradeShift co-founder Christian Lang denying that he abused any employee. He said they actually had a consensual relationship together. The tech startup TradeShift is filing a lawsuit against the company. The former employee at TradeShift is filing a lawsuit against TradeShift, its former CEO, and several board members and investors as well, alleging that she was made to be this sexual slave. She's doing it under the name of Jane Doe, so she doesn't want her identity known. But apparently, she says she was trafficked around the world. Um, Serious allegations of assault, harassment, and that investors knew about all of this since 2019. He says, I hired this woman when we were already dating. We were already in a relationship, which ended 8 months later, and that the lawsuit's claims are categorically false, defamatory, and not reflective of the relationship with this woman. But she says she feared retribution at work, and if she didn't sign the slave contract, that she was sent 2 months into the job, that she would be, fired or somehow retaliated against. She said that she suffered years of abuse, torture, and assault. I mean, this is awful, awful. Yeah, horrible. There's some big sports stories this morning as well. I don't know if you saw, this is the Nikki Medoro show after all, and so we have to talk about all things Niners. But there's this story in SF Gate about the 49ers investigating now after a skeleton hanging in effigy was seen in online videos. This was out at the tailgate area, and I'll shove a picture of it for you guys. Here's what it looked like. Now, I guess the question is it just all in fun? Here's the picture. You can see the Seahawks skeleton hanging in effigy. Or when you look at, whipping fans up into a frenzy, perhaps, is this something that could lead to some type of violence or danger? And my mind, maybe I'm extrapolating and going off down the deep end, but my mind goes to what happened to Brian Stowe at a Giants Dodgers game, right? Where the fans were so rabid, I guess is the word, that he was attacked in the parking lot because he was a Giants fan who happened to be at Dodger Stadium. So do the teams, the professional sports teams, have a duty to police things like this and make sure that while there's a rivalry, and that's expected, that people are being treated with respect? And I don't know if this is very respectful, or maybe if you could say that this is a step over the line. But the 49ers are investigating this. This is a very prominent fan tailgate group, always out there. And they hung the skeleton with a Seahawks jersey by its neck right before the game on Sunday. These 408 faithfuls, as they call themselves, they have a Faithful Boulevard event in the green lot at Levi's Stadium. They host a musician who makes up these 49ers songs. They're really, really into it. The hanging of the skeleton with the Seahawks jersey was the number 3 on the jersey, which is a former Seattle quarterback, Russell Wilson. And it was really visible in all of their posts online. I don't hmm, I don't know if this is all in fun or not. The skeleton was hanging right behind where, where they were shooting a music video with the music artist that they had out there with a 49er Faithful song. So the 49ers say, "We condemn the use of racist imagery and anyone involved in this incident. We're continuing to investigate. They remain steadfast in their commitment to ensuring our community continues to be a safe, inclusive atmosphere for all fans to enjoy the sport." So I don't know what you think about this. I'm going to the chat. I'm going to see. Is this just fans being crazy, or is this racist, or is this over the line? I don't know. Beth says that goes way over the line. No. Doug's saying not cool. Tailgating should be for barbecue and for peace, and that is it. Mm-hmm. Um, Jim's saying 408 faithful. What 415 is the true SF? Yeah, I hear you. Mindy says a bit rude. Was that necessary? It's bad. Yeah. So not a lot of love for the 49er faithful hanging the Seahawk jersey in effigy. Not loving it either. But you know, I didn't look at it and think racism right away. But perhaps if I were of a different race, that's the first thing I would have thought of. And I get that maybe my mind didn't go there because of my experience in life. Vilma says, not cool. The skeleton is black too. It's not all in fun. It is over the line and it is racist. Kim says, not cool, but I don't think it's racist. Mindy talking about hostility, but football isn't hopscotch. Shouldn't be hanging anybody though. Mm-hmm. Heather says, nah, stupid and unnecessary. Yeah. And then Jim talking about a big brawl, lots and lots of people at the Philadelphia Dallas Cowboys game. And I would argue that that's true, Jim, and that perhaps sports teams do have an obligation to help keep fans safe by not allowing things that could stir up a lot of controversy and maybe violence as well. So, But yeah, now the 49ers are investigating this, and I don't think we're going to see that happen again. Let's hope. Let's move to Clark Reid because I haven't seen Clark in a long time. I'm so excited to welcome Clark to the Nikki Medoro show. How are you, sir? Oh, you're muted, my friend.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to click the mute and it didn't work. So, working now?
It's working now.
Okay,
How are
good.
you?
I am good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, I've been working a lot over at Brand X all over the place. So, speaking of radio stations, before we get into tech and skeletons, I worked at a radio station, a music station in San Francisco, a big music station that everyone would know. I'm not going to name, but they were remodeling and the engineers were rebuilding the studio. And they bought a really nice skeleton, put a station T-shirt on it, and build it into the wall, and then wall boarded over it.
Oh, there's a fake skeleton in the wall.
So that someday when somebody remodels again, here's going to be the skeleton wearing a station T-shirt, and it's still there, by the way.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I've been in the building, and that wall is still there, so the skeleton still lives in that wall. And someday, some poor soul is going to be tearing off the drywall and just go, "Oh my God!"
So another radio skeleton story. When the KGO radio was imploded and fell in on itself, and we were all let go, there was a big empty studio there, and they were turning it into a KNBR studio. But it was in October, so it was around Halloween time, and someone brought in a couple of skeletons. They had skeletons in the control room, sitting in what used to be where the board
I've seen pictures of that.
They had skeletons in the studio, so it basically just looked like we were all there dead at the.
They put the headphones on the host too, on the host skeleton, which was, my God.
Well done, KNBR. Well done. I hear that. Unfortunately, the karma wheel spun back around and slapped KNBR as well.
It did.
So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They've been not quite decimated like what happened to KGO, but it's not pretty,
No, it isn't.
And our former boss even got a pink slip after like 26 years. With the company.
The state of radio is one of these things where you just don't know. It used to be that I know people jumped around station to station a lot. But you could carve out a career for yourself if you're doing what you loved, and you weren't going to get rich, but you were going to share the information of the day. You were going to communicate with people. You were going to develop these skills. But it seems like every few years there's more layoffs, and you just can't count on anything.
Yeah, it's a scary situation. And what I'm doing now, I'm just filling in, which I'm actually pretty happy about because I do my tech report anyway, and I've got other things going on. But I'm doing reports for all over Northern California.
Oh, wow.
Which is really nutty, but it's what works,
And you have your tech report here on YouTube,
yes,
right?
Indeed. Yep.
Which if you type in Clark Reid, REID.
Clark Reid SF.
You will find it, and every day, and I try to go in and click the like and listen to the report.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We do too. We do too with your show and Nikki's and Mark's. We try to check in and see what you guys are up to every day. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the tech because you have the list of the most popular App Store apps for 2023.
Indeed, and actually the number one app is that Chinese shopping app, Temu, I guess it is.
Oh, there's cheap stuff there. It's very tempting.
Well, it's pretty sketchy, man. I mean, but
I think so too.
But it did come in number one, and the number two app is one I hadn't even heard of. It's CapCut's video editor, which video is very hot, so that makes sense. And number three is, no surprise, Max, the streaming app for HBO, and this is where it gets interesting. Number four is Threads, the new Twitter answer that Meta has come up with. It's only 6 months old, and it's already in fourth place, so that is not too bad.
They say it was downloaded but not really used, and that a lot of people downloaded it and then got rid of it. But
it's getting used more and more. They're up, around like 60 million users. They'd had 100 originally, and supposedly X or Twitter has 666 interesting number, but no idea how many of those are bots or not, with Elon Musk's, he's laid off so many people, who knows? But at any rate, they're sitting in there now, which is kind of cool. And then TikTok is the number 5. And interestingly about TikTok has now become the first app that has passed the $10 billion mark that won a game that's taken in that much money, which is a whale of amount of money. I mean, my Lord.
I thought we were getting rid of TikTok, that, was the Chinese spy operation.
Yeah, but it's still cooking along.
Okay.
Now, Instagram is number 6. And probably getting some growth because of Threads, actually, because you had to sign up for Instagram to get Threads, which I did. I had never been on IG before, so I am now, so that I could use the Threads app.
Yeah.
And Google is number 7. Alphabet-owned Google's YouTube is number 8. And 9th place is WhatsApp Messenger, also a Meta app. 10th is Gmail. So that means 3 of the top 10 apps are owned by Meta. 3 of them are owned by Alphabet. And the other 2 are Chinese, Temu and TikTok. So that's a lot of consolidation in the app world, frankly.
Yeah, it really is. Let's talk about this. Speaking of app stores, this jury finding Google does have a monopoly in its, its app store against Epic Games. And Epic Games, they're the ones that make Fortnite, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to money, because Epic sued Apple and got beat. But the jury in this case found that Google had turned the Google Play App Store and Google Play billing service into an illegal monopoly, because they said that they'd made deals with the smartphone makers and big game developers. And so there was money involved. And the damages and remedies haven't been decided yet. And, of course, Google will appeal it. They'll appeal the pants off of it up to the Court of Appeals and the state Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court, everywhere they can go to try to put this off. But this was a big win for Epic. It was an epic win.
So is Epic saying that when they sell their Fortnite or whatever games on the Google app, that Google takes an inordinate amount of the money and leaves them with a pittance?
They are, but they're also saying that Google was basically paying off the smartphone makers and other game makers to try to neutralize them.
Okay.
To try to kind of squeeze them out.
Yeah.
Which is not cool. Not at all.
So we had signed up, my husband signed up for the waiting list a couple of years ago for this Ford F-150 Lightning EV truck. This truck, you're supposed to be able to power your whole house. So if the power goes out, you can take a cord out to the truck, power up the whole house. It's supposed to be.
You have to have a power converter at your house, but you can run your house for about 3 days off that truck.
So that was supposed to be really cool. And then he thought, well, I will be able to tow things. But people were saying that had bought the truck, the first iteration of the truck, that when they tried to tow something, the juice, the electricity in the truck went pew, boom.
Yeah.
And you might have been able to tow something for a couple of hours before you were on the side of the road.
Oh, wow. I had not heard that.
Total no-go. And now we hear that Ford is kind of cutting production. By the way, when he heard that, our name came off the list. So
sure. But then you have the the Cybertruck, and there's a great video that I just saw. A Cybertruck guy cut down a very small Christmas tree, put it in the bed, because the bed is small on that Cybertruck.
Right.
It's tiny. Puts it in there, and he can't get through the snow to get back to the road. And
you're talking about the Tesla one, right?
In the Tesla truck. And a Ford comes along and hooks onto him and pulls him out, which had to have just galled the poor guy in the Cybertruck. He had to be dragged out by a Ford. So,
man. Yeah. So why does Ford say they're cutting production? Nobody wants it?
Yeah, they say that they had initially, though, they had doubled production. So they're kind of just going back to where they were, really.
Okay.
But they are cutting back from 3,200 trucks a week to 1,600. And they say they weren't making any money on them. But this is what, being an old car guy, this is what gets my attention. The vehicle originally, the cheapest version was $39,994 before tax credits, okay?
Right.
Well, then Ford came along and goosed it about 10 grand up to $49,995. Well, now all of a sudden you're out of the sweet spot for the mooch Joe Blow buyer that's going to buy a pickup truck when you get to 50 grand. And I think that probably has killed off sales as much as anything.
Yeah.
You really, I mean, you got to be in that 30 to 40 grand, area in order to really get the mass of buyers when you're talking about car sales. At least that's my opinion. After being a car dealer for 10 years, that if you aren't getting those Joe lunch bag mooch buyers, you're screwed if you're trying to do any kind of volume.
Well, it looks like maybe that their price increase has shot them in the foot. Maybe that's wrong.
Yeah.
Let's go to Microsoft. They have agreed to a union position on the use of AI. Are you talking about SAG-AFTRA here?
No, it's not. It's the Communication Workers of America, but it's very similar to SAG-AFTRA. And I am hoping, and I think that between Microsoft making this deal with the CWA and the SAG-AFTRA deal, that we're going to see more robust contracts that deal with AI, which they should. I mean, we all know this stuff is coming down the road. And, my concern as a broadcaster is they would clone my voice and then go use it freebies to make me, do gun show and porn commercials or some crap that I don't want to be associated with. And so the best we can hope for, and I'm fine with it, is, okay, they have to ask our permission and they have to pay us. And if they do that, I'm fine with that. It's like, okay, you're going to ask me, permission. It's the same thing as with voice tracking when they started doing that in broadcasting, and they'd only pay you like 20% of what a salary would be, but it was for a whole other market. So I'm making my salary and I'm making another 20%. It's like, okay, I'll do that. I just don't want you doing it for free.
Yeah.
And so I think, and that's what the CWA people want. They're asking. Microsoft, by the way, had this in their quote principles, unquote, to treat everyone fairly and empower everyone. Well, CWA made him put it in ink. Yeah. And now they're going to have to actually do it. And Microsoft did this, and it's the first time they've ever made a deal with a union. So that is a big step.
It's as of note, absolutely.
Yeah.
Beeper Mini. I don't know what Beeper Mini is.
Beeper Mini, well, if you use an Android phone and you chat with somebody that has iChat, your little chat bubble shows up green.
Right.
And on an iPhone, it's blue. And this is like no big deal. I have a lot of friends. I have Apple stuff, and I have a lot of friends that I communicate with, and they've got Android, and they show up green. Well, I don't care. But apparently the teens and the tweens and the folks in their 20s care very much about that stupid blue bubble. It's like a huge, big deal. They want to have the blue bubble. So this app figured out a workaround to where you'd show up on iMessage with a blue bubble using an Android phone.
Yeah. And
Apple immediately blocked it. They said, well, you're faking credentials. And they said, you have to have an Apple ID. Can't use your phone number. And now the people that make Beeper Mini found another way around it. So it's back for now. We don't know if it's been out for 4 or 5 days and Apple hadn't killed it yet. So we'll see what happens.
I noticed that there are differences when I used to be, now I have an Apple, but before I had the Google Pixel.
Yeah.
And before that, I liked the Samsung Galaxy,
which are both good phones. Yeah.
Good phones. I was very happy with it, but I wanted to be on the same network as my children to see where they were in the world and everything else.
Yeah.
So I noticed that some emojis and some things didn't show up the same. So I would send it from my Google Pixel and it wouldn't show up on the Apple phone the same way as it looked on my screen. So it's not about, I mean, it is about the blue bubble, but also some other differences as well. So it's interesting that they found a way around Apple's. I mean, how did they do that? Is that some type of proprietary secret sauce that they dip their foot into?
Well, what the deal was is that you had to run through Apple servers to get on this, and they figured out a way to do this without using an Apple ID.
Oh,
it's what they did. Well, not a whole lot of Android people have Apple IDs. I mean, that makes it a little tough. So they have they're also working on a way of using your phone number again without having Apple shut you down. There's a really neat thing though, is because this all happened, they have gone to making the app free temporarily instead of $2 a month. Okay. So in order to get more signups. So we'll see what happens as they move forward. But like I said, it's been 3, 4, 5 days and Apple so far hadn't shut them down. So maybe they're going to go. Apple they're talking about since some of the things have gone on at X, formerly Twitter, they're talking about maybe nuking X from the App Store on Apple,
Oh,
which would
that
be a
would be
huge blow.
huge. Yeah, that would be a really big deal, I think. You had mentioned, and so I'll throw it out there, that we
Yeah,
could play Stump Clark Reid tech-wise.
sure. Okay.
So if you've got a tech question for Clark Reid, please put it
Oh,
in the
Lord.
chat. All right,
I
here we go.
They'll whack me on the first one. This will be like Stump the Band on the Tonight Show, I can tell you.
Well, speaking of the people sending messages and Bieber Mini and
Yeah.
all this,
Mhm.
I guess Google is working on editing support for Google Messages.
Yes. Mhm.
Tell me
Yeah.
more.
Well, what it would do, and like I said, Apple's had this for a while, and so has WhatsApp. But when you send something and you noticed a typo or you said
Happens to me
something you
all
didn't
the
want.
time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you get that thing and you nuke it in the first 15 or 30 seconds, you
Right.
can edit it and then send it, and you won't have to send a second message saying, oh, I screwed
Right.
up, I didn't mean that. And so that's what they're working on.
So is that something right now we can only do on Apple phones and not
Y-
Google phones?
you can do it using the Apple app, or you can do it using WhatsApp, which runs on either Android or Apple.
Okay,
That they Meta has that feature also. But
sure.
yeah, it's a really nice feature to have. You don't
Yeah.
want to, I mean, it's embarrassing to send goofy things. Facebook Messenger is going to be getting it also very quickly in the near future too.
I like that. I like if I've sent something, like sometimes I'll send the wrong link to
Yeah,
something and then
yeah,
I
and you
can
just
just hit delete send and it's like poof, it goes
yeah.
away.
Yeah, and
Love
you can
that.
recall it, and then you can re-edit it and send it again. I mean, now I have to say, this makes no difference on earth to those people that send stuff in all small letters or don't care about punctuation and send stuff with typos in it. And there are a lot of those folks out there. But for those of us who are nerdy enough to care about capitalization and punctuation, and sending correct links, this is a nice feature to have.
Yeah, very good. I don't see any questions for you in the chat yet, Clark Reid, but
Okay,
let
well,
me
let me throw out some new material, brand new material, not uploaded. I haven't done my
Oh,
report today, so
bring it on.
let me give
It's
you
a
some.
live Clark Reid report.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Meta has announced they're going to add moderation to Threads starting in about a month, which will be great because a lot of people have moved over there, and so that's a
Yeah.
cool thing. And now this is kind of a big story. It has not happened yet. It's only in beta, but Apple is working on what they call, quote, stolen device protection. And this is like, say you're out in a Starbucks or something, and you key in your passcode and you're using the phone. Well, if somebody is spying on you and zooms in on you, they can get your passcode.
Mhm.
They can run by, grab your phone, run out of there, and get 40 miles down the road, and they can steal your whole digital life, which is
Right.
not good. Well, what Apple's device protection would do is it would, if you are not in a usual location you go to, or you're too far away, you're going to have to use Face ID or Touch ID to get into the phone again, and can't just use the passcode, which will be a good thing. I mean, that'll keep people from breaking in. They also would have to use Face ID or Touch ID if you try to get into the pass keys or the iCloud, where you have all your passwords and so
Mhm.
forth. So it's just an extra safety feature. It's in beta, but it should come out in version 17.3 of iOS, which probably will be out pretty soon. So a
Okay.
good feature to have, I think.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
because that kind of stuff goes on, and it's scary. Here's a thing that didn't really probably happen to you, hadn't happened to me as Clark Reid, but if people are always screwing up your name, right? Google is adding a feature. It just came out yesterday or day before, actually the day before. Works in all of Google Workspace, Google Docs, Gmail. On the profile card next to your name, a little circle with an arrow in it. People can click on that and hear you pronounce your name correctly. So especially for like salespeople that are prospecting, you don't want to call Mr. Dumas and call him Mr. Mr. Dumbass.
Right.
You want to say Dumas, because
Right.
that's just a really terrible way to start trying to sell somebody something. So a very good feature that's coming out. Actually, LinkedIn and Slack have had this feature, but Google is the big dog, and boy, that's going to help a lot of people to correctly pronounce folks' names especially when you're trying to sell somebody
I
something.
like that.
So
Yeah.
embarrassing,
It can be.
yeah,
Sometimes, I mean, even in news, I've been known to, if I don't know how to
yeah,
pronounce the name of a city,
yeah,
I'll call the city hall. And
sure.
even after hours, they have, this is the city of
Yeah.
Fresno or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then you can hear it, but I hate the mispronunciations. If I can
I've had
avoid
to do
them, I
that
will.
doing
Yeah.
traffic for different,
Mhm.
Fresno and Stockton
Yeah.
and different places way
Yeah.
out in the boonies because I'll hit a street or a road that crosses the freeway. I don't know how to pronounce that thing. So
No
I go
idea.
online and check that devil out before I say it on the air because,
Yeah.
the people there, of course, know how to say it. They're going to, who is this idiot? Doesn't know how to pronounce our streets.
So I was just reading this story this morning about uh so go back to it here. Um Tesla, back
Yeah.
to Elon Musk and Tesla, they
Yes.
are revealing an updated humanoid robot. I don't know if you've been following their whole robot news, but
Yeah. Oh,
Elon
the
Musk
robot.
shared a short video on X last night
Mm-hmm.
that demonstrated Optimus Gen 2. It's a video
Okay.
that shows this robot moving its neck, its
Mm-hmm.
fingers, and hands more like a human. At
We'll
the
see.
end of the video, it dances to demonstrate its mobility.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go with the humanoid robots. Are we all gonna have a Tesla bot in our house?
Maybe, but of course, the first version, I have a spy inside Tesla. The first version was a skinny guy in a robot suit because they couldn't get the real
They
robot to
couldn't make it
actually
work.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was kind of like C3PO,
Mhm.
you going out on stage and everything. So we'll see as time moves on. We'll hear from the inside whether or not, this was actually a robot doing this stuff or Elon is fudging a little bit. By the way,
Well,
speaking of Elon Musk and Tesla, they have recalled almost every Tesla vehicle on the road, 2
I
million of them.
saw that because of the autonomous drivers
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so does that mean that they're admitting there's a problem if they're
Yeah.
recalling?
Yeah. I think since they've gotten whacked just in the last week or so by the government about this, that they are finally getting proactive. And I do know because, again, from a spy that I have, had a coworker who worked in the software division that writes this code. And this fellow had worked until like 2 a.m. I mean, like a lot of software people. And he was heading home and he set the, self-driving controls, autopilot to take him to his girlfriend's house. And he fell asleep at the wheel on the freeway. Now he has a version that nobody has. Okay. This is not, because he's a developer. He works there.
Right.
He wakes up in his girlfriend's driveway. And it was up the hill into, like in the Hayward Hills or someplace like that,
Wow.
on local streets and everything. And it got him home, parked in the driveway and shut off.
Wow.
And he woke up. So, I mean, they do have some really advanced tech, but it's not perfect yet. And it's going to need to be pretty perfect for the general public to have that,
That kind of scares me a little
Yeah.
bit. Okay,
Oh,
so
the robot.
here's the robot. Here's the first one, the
Yeah.
Bumblebee,
Yeah.
and then they go to Optimus Generation 1,
Right.
right? The guy in the suit, and it's just the leg. So that's the Optimus Prime 2. I don't know. Oh, and there it is dancing. It's a
Yeah.
little dancing. Yeah. Is
Kind of,
this
it's kind of an old man dance. I got to be honest. It's not really too
So
great, but yeah.
is this the next thing? Because
Yeah.
I was talking
Yeah.
to Robert Scoble, and
Yep.
he's an enthusiast for all things AI, and he was
Mhm.
saying, right now, something like that is gonna be cost prohibitive.
Oh, yeah, of
In a
course.
few years,
Yeah.
they're gonna be like the cost of a car, maybe.
Mhm.
So, you'll pay, I don't know, $20,000-$30,000 for one of
Right.
these things, and it will do all your housework for you, and it will
Yeah.
do all your things for you, and so then we'll have them in every house.
Maybe
Is
it'll drive your car for you instead of the self-driving too. I mean, sure.
You do
Chauffeur
it
you
all.
around.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, is this where we wanna go?
Yeah. That plus AI is, and speaking of AI and
Mhm.
a little bit creepy and weird, but maybe cool. Meta has introduced some more AI into their Ray-Ban glasses. So you can be looking at something
I
and,
have those.
and ask it a question. Like, they gave an example. You're looking at teas and say, hey, which one of these has the least caffeine in this?
I have these glasses.
Okay.
These
Well,
are the Meta Ray-Ban Wayfarer glasses.
correct.
My husband won them,
Uh-huh.
We have no idea what to do with it, so it just sits here in a box. We
Well,
don't
they're
know.
pushing they are pushing out this AI tech so that you could look at, say, boxes of tea and say which of these has the least caffeine, and it clicks. It has to take a picture first, and then within a few seconds it'll say, okay, it's the Celestial Seasons one that has the
Oh,
least. And so that's kind of a cool thing. Although they
yeah.
said it wasn't, they gave it a bowl of fruit to look at, and it correctly named off all the fruit, but it said there were pomegranate in it, and there were no pomegranates in the bowl of fruit. So there's still a little of what they call hallucination,
Yeah, they have a work
which
to do on that.
means the AI is basically making crap up. But
Yeah.
that's still an advancement, and you get that plus robots, and yeah, we can be looking at a whole brave new world. Honestly,
Wow.
pretty
Okay,
scary stuff.
so I have this other story, and it's another
Hmm.
AI related story.
Okay.
And this is a San Francisco-based startup company.
Hmm.
They are trying to bring artificial intelligence to banks. It's called Hyperplane. They're building
Hmm.
AI models to help banks predict customer behavior.
Oh,
The
great.
company already working with about 2 dozen banks, or at least 1 dozen banks in Brazil, and with a new
Hmm.
round of funding, they wanna expand it to the United States. So
Oh boy.
AI coming to banking as well.
Hey, this guy's a deadbeat. Turn him down.
No,
Oh
thank
my.
you.
Oh dear.
And
Yeah.
then here's a tech story, and this is the last one I'll throw at you, but
Hmm.
there is the first in-human trial now of a male birth control pill that has
Oh, now
begun. It's kind of a
that is
medical
that
advancement.
has been kind of a holy grail since like the 60s.
Mhm.
That's a big deal.
It's a San
Yeah.
Francisco-based company called Your
Hmm.
Choice Therapeutics,
Hmm.
and they have started dosing male volunteers in phase 1 of their clinical study of a
Hmm.
hormone-free contraceptive. That's a big
Oh,
deal.
hormone free, so the side effects wouldn't be as
As
severe.
strong,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
One would hope, the initial
Hmm.
preclinical studies, funded in part by the National Institute of Health, showed this pill is 99% effective and
Wow.
100% reversible with no side effects. It sounds too
Wow.
good to be true. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that would be huge because for
Yeah,
decades now, women have gone through, different issues when they've
yeah,
taken oral contraceptives and everything,
yeah,
and that would really be cool. And of
yeah,
course, they have hormones up the wazoo. Not as bad as the original ones, though. The original birth control pills really, had a ton of both progesterone and estrogen,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
they really kind of wigged out gals in the 60s. But it was kind of worth it. It was like freedom and all that jazz.
Mhm.
But God, if they could do this with guys, I mean, wow.
Yeah, take responsibility for your
Yeah.
reproductive health,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Clark
Cool.
Reid, I want you every week. I love you and I
Aw.
miss you, and it's so good to see you. I know
Well,
you're
good to
busy,
be
but
here.
I'm gonna try to get you back on the show sooner
Okay.
than what we did last time. It's
Okay.
been too long, so
Well, we can do that.
yeah.
I'm like I said, I went to work for these guys. And I don't want to do this all the time,
Yeah.
because I have
Yeah,
my tech blog and I have other things I'm doing,
yeah,
and so it's kind of hit and miss. So yeah, let me know, and we can figure out might not be the same
awesome.
day and time every single time, but we can figure
Yeah,
something out if you'd like. That'd be cool.
awesome, very good.
All
Happy
right.
holidays to you. It's so good to
Happy
see you.
holidays to you too.
Yeah,
Enjoy all of the Kris Kringle, things and everything as you proceed toward you have your tree up and all decorated and
trees
all
up,
that. Yeah,
everything's ready to rock
yeah.
and roll. Yeah,
Excellent, excellent.
awesome.
And
Alright,
now
Clark.
the kids can now ask AI what's in a package and take a picture of it, and they're gonna
Oh,
know
isn't
what they're
that
getting.
funny?
I mean, that's coming.
There's AI Santa. You can find AI
Yeah,
Santa online.
exactly.
I'm telling you. All right,
Oh
Clark,
dear.
have a great rest of your
All
day.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks a
See you
lot, Kim.
soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Clark Reid, everybody. All right. My thanks to Clark for hanging out with me on the Nikki Medoro show. So, reading last night, my blood is boiling. You guys know me. I've got my sweater on. I have my blanket, my throw blanket here because I will do whatever it takes to avoid giving PG&E any extra money. I'm so angry at them. And I was angry at them when last month they got their 13.8% rate hike approved. If approved, I just say rubber stamped by the CPUC, who they really don't, challenge them on much of anything, is how it feels to me as a ratepayer. And then I read last night that on the heels of an increase, PG&E wants more money from ratepayers. They want another rate hike. They just had one, and now they want another one. I got to talk to Mark Toney with Turn, the Utility Reform Network, to find out what in the ever-loving world is happening. Hi.
How you doing, Kim?
I'm
It
good.
is
How are you?
I'm doing well, except for this outrageous request from PG&E for another $2 billion. I mean, they didn't even wait for the ink to dry. On the 2 weeks after being awarded a increase that's going to raise everybody's bills by $33 a month, they now want another $12 to $20 a month on top of that starting March 1st. And we just think it's ridiculous.
It's crazy. And do they not care about angering ratepayers like that? I mean, is public perception nothing to them?
PG&E cares much more about making Wall Street investors happy and satisfied, and much less about how it's hitting the pocketbooks of people who we just have new figures that came out that showed that there's been an incredible increase in customer debt, people falling behind in their bills, and it's skyrocketing, and it is just in parallel with these skyrocketing rates. Turn figured out, our estimate is that from January 1, 2023 to January 1, 2024, PG&E customers are seeing at least a 30% increase. We're talking about $60 a month increase in just 1 year. $60 used to be people's whole monthly bill. Now $60 is the amount of increase in 1 year.
I can't. It's outrageous. I mean, and people are saying as they leave California, listen, I can't afford to live here. The price of everything has gone up. And one of the main things they list is the increase of power and electricity from PG&E.
Every time you read about or hear about a PG&E increase, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And that's because PG&E has several requests that are sitting on the table at the Public Utilities Commission right now. And every increase stacks on top of each other. That's why when you hear, oh, it's going to be a $33 increase, I guarantee you that in 2024, people are going to see increases more like $40 to $60 or more each month by the time the year is over. 2024 is going to be a painful year for PG.
Oh. Mark, and you know what's really frustrating is when you say there's requests on the table. What that means to me is it's going to happen because the California Public Utilities Commission never says no to PG&E. They just say, "All right, well, why do you need this? All right, okay, boom, you're approved." So, is there anything we can do? Unless I'm wrong. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
So, I got two responses to that.
Okay.
I am extremely disappointed in the California Public Utilities Commission because they had a proposal in front of them that was issued by the judge in the case, issued by the CPUC judge that agreed with Turn that it's cheaper and faster to insulate overhead power lines than it is to bury them underground.
Yeah.
And so the PUC had an option to accept what their own judge, after listening to all the evidence from PG&E, from Turn, and everybody else involved, and they made a decision based on the evidence presented in the case. And the CPUC because of pressure from PG&E, issued an alternate decision, and they kept making it better and better for PG&E. They amended it twice. So we're very disappointed because the PUC had two options in front of them, and they picked the one that PG&E wanted.
Of course they did.
Here's the thing. We believe there is a solution. And what TURN is launching is a campaign for affordable power.
Okay.
CAP. Because we believe that rate increases should be capped at no higher than the cost of living adjustment provided by Social Security. That is reasonable. To have unlimited increases, we are in a situation where the sky is the limit.
Yes.
For how much PG&E can ask for, and the sky is the limit to how much the Utilities Commission can grant them.
That's not right.
We can't afford this. And so be looking out for what TURN is doing next, because we are on the verge of announcing this campaign of looking for ways that if the CPUC doesn't adopt this, and we've been arguing this for 2 years, that we're going to have to go to the legislature and say there's got to be limits.
All right. Well, listen, the CPUC is now made up completely of appointees by Governor Gavin Newsom, right?
The CPUC has always been appointed by the governor, and you're correct, because they have 6-year terms. They are now all have been appointed by the same current governor, Governor Newsom.
If he was really, this breaks my heart because I really like Governor Gavin Newsom. I think he's right on reproductive rights. I like a lot of his ideas. I think he's a cool guy. But when this is this one sore spot I have with the governor, when it comes to the California Public Utilities Commission, he doesn't seem like he's on the side of ratepayers. It's the one glaring, massive flashing light that's like, red flag city, Governor Newsom. Why are you not helping us on this?
Let me tell you part of what's happening behind the scenes here. We have a very powerful industry that is involved in CPUC proceedings, but they are a shadow party. They do not file comments. They do not register as a party. And this is Wall Street investment firms. I'm talking about Goldman Sachs. I'm talking about JP Morgan Chase. I'm talking about Citi. I just want to name them so you know who I'm talking about. And so what they do is they put out utility investor newsletters. And in those newsletters, they project what they want to happen in major proceedings that have to do with PG&E revenue. They will say stuff like, there's a proposed decision. Investors react negatively if it gets passed. Now that's sending a signal, okay, to the PUC. That's sending a signal to the governor, okay? Oh, well, the credit rating of PG&E might be lowered. Okay? And here's the thing. PG&E's credit rating has nothing to do with them raising rates. PG&E has a low credit rating because of all the doggone fires that they have started, because of their history of negligence. That's why they have a rating. It is not the fault of customers that PG&E has such a low credit rating.
So I'm thinking the whole follow the money thing, right? It seems to me that if Governor Newsom has appointed these people who are rubber stamping anything PG&E wants, then PG&E in my mind, I'll use the word allegedly, must be giving either the governor's campaigns, political campaigns money, or somehow giving money to someone. So has Turn followed the money? Is that why we're seeing the rubber stamping of all these things? Is it because PG&E is giving money to politicians?
I think it goes deeper than that. I mean, I think I think that's a very easy story to tell. I believe it goes deeper than that. I believe it goes to the influence of Wall Street investors,
Okay.
and that is the real power behind the curtain. That if you draw back the curtain, you are going to see. I get these newsletters, by the way. This is how I know what I'm saying. I read what they are saying. And I cannot believe I'm the only person getting complimentary copies of these newsletters. So
suddenly Mark Toney's name is off the list. Someone's deleting your name from the email list right now.
Well, I'm just being real. You're asking me a question. I'm trying to give you a response. And, I'm talking about stuff that you don't read in the media.
Absolutely.
I will tell you that after the campfire, which was in 2018, starting in January 2019, every week there was an investment firm from New York who flew into California to meet with the commissioners, legislative leadership, the governor's office. I know because they wanted to meet with me. And I refused to meet with them at that moment. Kim, I'm going to have to head off. I have another interview.
You do.
45. I'm really sorry.
No, it's okay. I wanted to know quickly before you jump out, what can we do? Do we take this laying down, or is there any way we can fight back?
The way to fight back is to check the Turn website, turn.org, right after the beginning of the year to see how you can sign up for our campaign for affordable power to set a cap on future rate increases.
All right. We'll have you back then. Thank you for spending time with us.
Absolutely. Happy to join.
Bye. Bye. Mark Toney, everybody. Very, very cool to have him on the show. So here we go again with another rate increase. Another day, another dollar headed toward PG&E. Turn.org at the first of the year. I'll check it out. I'll see if what they have to do will work for me, for us. At this point, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because, as he said, the sky is the limit. And I'm just done paying PG&E more and more and more. It's why the heat is down in this house. It's why, I have a renewed effort to make sure every light is off in every room that is not being used. I would be sitting here in the dark looking at the computer if it, didn't look weird on camera. I just don't want to give them any more than I possibly am already giving them. Let's go to the chat and take a look at what you guys are saying. Let's see. CPUC members, writes Aussie Rules, auditioning for PG&E senior officer roles. CPUC bylaws should state no subsequent employment for 10 years at utility companies, related entities, consultants to utility companies. Yes, because there has to be a separation of where your loyalties lie. And if you're jonesing for a job, you're not acting on behalf of ratepayers, you're acting on behalf of yourself. I don't know if we can restrict for 10 years, but I like your idea. I absolutely like your idea. I'm sorry I didn't see your question, Leon Springer. I should have asked that. Leon wanted me to ask about capital cost recovery for speculators building grid scale renewables. That would have been a really good question. I'm sorry I didn't see it in time. Gordon writes too. PG&E executives leave and join the CPUC. It's like a rotating door from one to the other. Very frustrating. Calvin saying governor appointing CPUC members, but they can act independently. PG&E still has influence on CPUC members. It's not a coincidence that the CPUC decisions favor PG&E. We need a way to stop the CPUC injustice. And how much are rates going to rise before we demand that, Calvin? Before we need a way to, you say we need a way to stop CPUC injustice. We need to demand it. We need to demand it at the ballot box. We need to demand it from our political leaders. If we want to change the way this is done, I would hope that we could, but maybe Mark Toney is right. And maybe it has to do with big investors and don't try to get in the way of their money. I don't know. Yeah, it's infuriating. It feels like they're taking money from people who just don't have any more to give, honestly. Calvin says PG&E has rigged the system for decades, no accountability whatsoever. Jim saying, when you do that, Kim, I assume you mean when you put restrictions on who can serve in what capacity, they'll raise the rates again because they say nobody's using, when I reel in my electric use, they say nobody's using enough electricity and they can't sustain themselves. It's true. Remember what they said when we were all conserving power? Because we had grid problems and they were saying, oh, conserve power. They would say that with one hand, and with the other hand, they'd say, geez, when you conserve power, we can't charge you as much. So we're going to have to raise the rates, even though you're conserving power. Oh, and by the way, if you don't conserve, we'll charge you more. And if you do conserve, we'll charge you more. Because basically, we just want your money. Telling you guys, how will poor people afford their gas and electric? Question. It's this huge question. Sorry, I have to fix my hair because it's poking up like a rooster's comb. Yes, how will poor people afford it? I do think there is, for the very, very poor, if you can prove that you're below a certain income level, there are special programs that PG&E has and most utilities have by law that they are forced to have them, where you qualify for like I think it's a basic rate and it's very, very cheap. So if you're poor, that's probably where you fall. But what if you're just making it? You're just barely swinging by, right? You're like me. Maybe you lost your job. You're trying to make a living doing something, but you've taken a massive pay cut to do so, which is on me. That's my prerogative. But then you have this rate increase after rate increase that's going to force me to go back to get, a job where I can afford to pay my PG&E bills every month. It's frustrating. Randy saying it's like the water district raising water rates because we're conserving too much water. That's exactly right. Yes. Yes, Randy. Viewfinders president, hello, Viewfinders, was the great energy deregulation of America where anybody could sell electricity a scam? I hear of folks off the grid, but never, hey, I use XYZ power and I'm saving money. I don't know the answer to that because I don't have access to anything except PG&E. So in my community, it's like if you don't have PG&E, then you have solar panels and your own battery in your garage and you're handling everything yourself, one or the other. We have something called Sonoma Clean Power, but its effort is cleaner, greener energy, and it also is not cheap. Let's see. Jim writing, did that during the drought with water conservation. Neither utility, same scenario. Heather writing, doesn't PG&E have something in place to penalize people who go solar? You still have to pay them something, I thought. So it used to be that they would give you these incentives to go solar, right? And then they realize, wait a minute, these people are still using our infrastructure. And they used to, if you made enough power, they would buy it back from you. So you could actually make money from PG&E. You would still be connected to their system so that on a day when you didn't produce enough power, you could draw from the grid. You could also sell power back to the grid. Yeah, they took away incentives is what they did. So the reason for getting solar, unless, you want to feel better about yourself and what you're putting out into the world and be more green. But the reasons for going solar, if you were trying to get the incentives and you were trying to save money for yourself, no, taken away. Absolutely. Ron Cook says, I'm an investor in a new LED lamp. I was surprised that utilities cared about energy efficiency. Cynically, I thought, wouldn't they prefer I run the AC with the window open? Totally true. Yeah. Yeah, it's really frustrating, you guys. It's really frustrating. Calvin saying PG&E makes people with solar pay a monthly fee, right, to use the grid, right, and not receive the market rate on power that you sell them. Cheater jerks. It's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's frustrating. Thank you for your comments, you guys. And I'm so sorry I had that technical issue with the show. I still haven't quite figured it out. But the good news is the Chrome browser has seemed to work today. Knock on wood. I hope it sticks because I'm also filling in on the Mark Thompson show, which is coming up next. And it is Wednesday, which means it's John Rothman Day on the Mark Thompson show. So we'll talk to John Rothman. And we'll also get a little holiday cheer from an amazing pianist who will play us some holiday music and talk about his life touring with superstars. So that is coming up on the Mark Thompson show. I am grateful to you for being here with me here on the Nikki Medoro show. Nikki will be back tomorrow and for the rest of the week. And I'm sorry if I've raised your blood pressure when talking about this rate increase. But, you know, just after we already had this rate increase, that they want another one. And as Mark said, there's, constant requests for increases sitting on the desk, always something in the pipeline. This one would add about $2 billion in rate increases that would go into effect in March of 2024. They want to start collecting increases from customers even before the CPUC has completed a proceeding with all parties. They like, we got our hand out and we want the money now. The sooner you can say we can take it, we're going to take it. So frustrating. I want safety as well, right? But it's not my fault that PG&E has neglected the infrastructure in California for so long. And they should have to pay for that. They should have to pay up. And when they commit a crime, when they cause devastation and fire in a community, when they cause gas explosions in a community, they need to pay and they need to not pass on that to the ratepayers. It's outrageous what's happening. So get off my PG&E soapbox, put my blanket on, and continue my crusade. I have some thank yous to this morning. Harry, thank you. What do you call an elf with a degree in English? A subordinate clause. Nice one, my friend. It's work from home Wednesday. Yay, Harry. I'm so glad you didn't have to go anywhere today. I love work from home Wednesday. Harry, have a great Wednesday. And thank you for the $5 to the Nikki Medoro show. And Jim with $5 to whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing. That would be me. I would be the producer and the host and the board op and the everything else. So yeah. I'll take the blame and the $5. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate that. Nikki and I do. And Doug Koch rolling on in with a $5 super sticker. You guys, thank you for supporting the show. I will tell you that, and I didn't say it at the very beginning, that theNikkiMedoroShow.com is where the Patreon and the PayPal links are located. You'll also find there the list of Nikki's favorite things, which I really enjoyed clicking my way through. So, and buying some things for holiday gifts off of that as well. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. Thank you for checking that out. The Patreon and PayPal supporters of the show, we couldn't thank you anymore. Honestly, so nice. Please click the thumbs up button if you could do that. That would mean a lot to us as well. That helps us grow the show. So thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd appreciate that as well. So thank you for everyone for sticking it out here with me on the Nikki Medoro show. I hope you'll roll over to the Mark Thompson show. That is next here on YouTube. And until then, we'll go back to some ukulele music from Jacob. Have a great day, everyone.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.